Hi, I'm Becky, and this is my art channel, Springing Art. This creation is for the May challenge of the COZ Creations Patreon group with Kathleen Osmore. Our challenge this month was to have something blue, something textured, and to use a blow dryer. So what we have here is a 16 by 20 canvas. As you can see, I've already tried this once and didn't have a very good success, so we're going with it again. I'm using 3 different golds, and those golds I can't tell you what they are because they're all a mixture of different golds. And they're quite old paints, but they're very reactive, so I'm happy to see the cells in here. This creation was inspired by a painting I saw on the Helen Hugh Art YouTube channel. I'll try to put a link to that in my description box below. Okay, as you've seen, I just did a Dutch pour, pretty standard, nothing special about it. I do think I forgot to mention that I used Phthalo Blue, and again, I have no idea what brand it was. Here I'm just doing a little touch up on some places that I don't like, mouth blowing some of the colors. It was, there wasn't a lot of variation there, so I wanted to bring a little bit of extra color up. This painting involves multiple steps, and it was quite time consuming. In fact, the edit, after I took everything out that I thought I could take out, it was still over an hour long. So I have a lot of this sped up. I have taken out bits and pieces. I haven't taken out anything that I thought was important for you to understand how the painting was created.
Even when my teardrops start to dry, and even when the sun begins to shine again, I've taken all the
Okay, in this part of the procedure, I'm going to be applying the texture paste, which is, let me think what it is. It's Liquitex modeling paste, and I'm just using a palette knife with that. I cut the W kind of shape out with my Cricut with some adhesive vinyl, and just stuck the vinyl to the paint after it dried. After it dried pretty thoroughly because I didn't want the tape to bring it up. And we're going to apply this paste. It's going to be a slow procedure, and then you'll see how I texturize it, and I will slow that part down a little bit.
say you think about me, because I'm starting to doubt we will find our way back to each other when you're on the other side of the world. I'm here and I'm waiting, but I know I can't say that we didn't end it for good reason. Still I'm hoping we'll be meeting soon. Everybody needs some time to figure themselves out, but I want you close, and I still have hope. I'm waiting every day for you to come back and tell me we can work it out, forget about the past.
Okay, you can see that I have turned this around to the opposite side. It's going to be the same procedure, and so I'm just going to delete this in the interest of saving time for this train, and it will be just exactly the same thing. Okay, I'm all finished texturizing it now, and we're going to take the tape off while it is still wet. That will make it easier to come off, and it won't rip and tear the modeling paste once it dries. Okay, now in this section you can see that I have started painting the texturized portion in blue. As I mentioned, there's a blue requirement here. Again, I'm with the same Phthalo Blue, and that last little tub that I showed you is some Amsterdam green blue. I added that in a few places. You'll see it as we go through here. I just did not want it to be a solid blue, boring, solid color, so I thought adding a little bit of color underneath of this might add some different highlights or tinges to the blue. I don't really think that it did, but the paste itself made enough variation in the color so that I was pretty happy with the variability of it. We're going to zip up to 4x speed here and watch me painting the bottom half of the painting, but we're going to skip the top half.
But I want you close, and I still have hope. I'm waiting every day for you to come back and tell me we can work it out, forget about the past. Now time moves slow. I'm not high or low, no, I'm somewhere in the middle and a little bit messed up. 'Cause without you, everything stops. Without you, everything stops. You wake me up in the middle of the night. You say I cannot wait till the morning. Some things just have to be done in the middle of the pouring rain. I still remember the look on your face, how you smiled the first time I met you. But when I look at you now, there's no trace. I guess it's all been erased. You tell me that it's over, that we just hurt each other, but we don't have to end up this way. We're underwater, way off the shoreline. I try to reach you, but you're drifting away. We're underwater, but there's still time left. If we want it, we can breathe again, breathe again. I'm not surprised that you're feeling this way. I've long known that you're bothered by something.
In this next section, I'm using some Pebeo iridescent gold paint to highlight the blue texture area. So I'm just applying some gold paint to the top ridges of the texture. I'm using what I call a dry brush method, which is something that I used in furniture painting, and it's just using a very, very little brush, a little bit of paint on the brush. In the next section, I will be adding resin to the painted area. In the video I watched by Helen Hugh, this is the point where she actually added her paint to this middle section, but I opted not to do that. I was afraid I would get into the ridged area. We're getting ready to add the epoxy at this point in time. This is KS resin, liquidy split. This is a very viscous resin, and it's also very quick setting. So I only have about 15 minutes of working time, but this is a small area, so that's plenty. You can see here that I'm going to be pushing the resin up to the ridge line with the stick. And I'll do that all the way through and push it, being careful to push the resin all the way up to the edge. Don't want any empty spaces here. And I'm one of those people who loves to feel resin, so I use my fingers to spread it out completely and make sure that there's no areas that the resin is missing. As I finished, I noticed that there were bubbles at the intersection of the painting and the textured area. I don't know whether you can see them here, but they're very visible. So I took a toothpick and started pushing the resin into the texture to make sure that there was the resin went all the way up to the textured area, hoping to reduce those bubbles. Up until this point, I've had my doors open and my fan on, so I haven't had a respirator on. But you'll see in this next section, I'm getting ready to torch the resin. And even though this is a no VOC resin, when you torch it, it does release what smells to be vapors. Whatever it is, I want to have a respirator on and protect my lungs, so I'm putting my half face piece respirator on. If I'm doing a large amount of resin, I will use a full face piece respirator. I just find it more comfortable to wear. I commented during my initial talk through that I had not cleaned the painting with alcohol and hoped it didn't cause problems, but it did cause problems, and the canvas resisted the resin in a few places. You can see where my finger is. Probably can't see it well, but there's no resin at all in that area. I tried to repair it, couldn't do it, and the bubbles that I was concerned about at the edge were still there as well, so I decided to do a second coat of resin. I haven't shown the second layer of resin, but I did apply it, and the canvas was completely covered after I cleaned it and sanded it a little bit. And the bubbles are slightly better, but they are still there. So you're seeing the final piece now. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for stopping by. Oh, and can you see my snake in the grass? That's all I can see. Have a good day, all.